Currently, there are only a total of 23 remaining players in Blue Lock, which means that a total of 277 players have been eliminated and gotten their dreams crushed. And today I will go over all of the major characters in the series who got eliminated, and some of the names on here will really shock you. We will start all the way from the beginning and then work our way over to the later half of the story. However, with that said, let's get into it with the first one, which is Kira. I mean, we all saw this coming, as bro didn't even get past to the first selection before getting thrown away, and it was none other than Blue Lock's hero Isagi, who got rid of him as he shot the ball right towards his face, firstly unmasking his true narcissistic behavior, but also how he looked down on everyone else. After that, we move all over to the end of the first selection, where the only somewhat notable characters who got eliminated were Okawa and the weirder looking Wanima brother, Keisuke. Okawa had some hype around him when he got introduced, but after Nico stopped being his lackey and passing the balls to him, he quickly fell off. And then there's Keisuke. Do I even need to say anything? Like his brother, he's just trash, and he only scored thanks to Kwan's betrayal. With that, however, we can once again make a time leap in the story, as we get to the end of the second selection, where a bunch of familiar faces had to go, and it's basically half of Team Z, as we had to say goodbye to Naruhaya, Aiman, Kwan, and Imamura. However, if we are honest, all of those were pretty mid characters from the beginning, so saying goodbye to them was pretty easy. Also, I'm not going to include Kunigami, as obviously the GOAT himself came back in the end. With this, we actually once again do a major time skip all the way to the end of the Neo Egoist League, as that's when the next cutoff of characters begins. Now right off the bat, we can say goodbye to a huge part of the starting 11 from the Japan U20 team, as it was only Fukaku, Aiku, and Sendu who survived. This means that Hayate, Wakatsuki, Neo, Cho, Darai, Neru, and Kitsunezato, all of them got dropped from the story. Now most of them I don't even think that we will remember, but I quickly want to talk about 3 of them, which was a bit sad to see. Firstly, it's Neo actually. Now he is the one character we got to see the most of outside of the ones who survived, as in the Japan U20, he was pretty included and was somewhat of a threat with his Doberman charge, but I guess that it wasn't enough for him to survive when going up against the likes of real pros. After him we have Neru, which might not be the biggest character, however. As I followed the story weekly throughout the Neo Egoist League, I did see that he actually had a pretty decently sized fan group behind him, which wished for him to get to play. As from the Japan U20 game, he did have some hype around him, as he was one of those really fast defenders, which is something that the Blue Lock 11 could maybe use, and just someone who overall would be sick to see more of. But sadly, he didn't even get a chance to survive, as the cold-hearted Master Noah didn't even put him into one game. Next up won't take that long as it is Kitsunezato, who I just really liked the design of, which is why I would have wanted him to at least survive a bit longer, but sadly that wasn't the case. But with that out of the way, we get into some of the more interesting characters, and we will actually be starting to talk about the monk himself who got eliminated. Now he was subbed into the game against PXG, and honestly, he put up a pretty insane fight against Rin and won them like 2 fouls if I can remember correctly. But anyway, this is actually a pretty insane feat. However, it ended up with him getting a yellow card and getting subbed out, which left him with a 3 million yen bid, which was far from what he needed. But on the topic of that, I do think that a 3 million bid from his performance is kind of insane. I don't think that he should have gotten a 25 million bid, which was the threshold to survive. However, I think that at least maybe 8 million, as he managed to stop Rin, who got the highest offer shared with Isagi. Moving on from the monk, we have one of my personal favorites, which always upsets a lot of people, but it's Nishioka. Now, with him, there's not even anything to really say, as I mean, we know legit nothing about this man except for the fact that he might have the most aura in Blue Lock, but that wasn't enough to push him through, unfortunately. Now, there will come some randoms here and there, like Haiji, for example, whom I don't expect all of you to know, so you might argue that he isn't an important character, which I'm not gonna lie, I agree with, but I still just want to talk about every Blue Lock character who got done over. But with that said, the Haiji segment is pretty much done, as I don't have anything more, or I guess that we can include that I think that his hair is pretty dope. After him, we have Himizu, who also got eliminated. Now, if you have read the episode Nagi spin-off, then you will know just how much of a baller this man was, as he was in the team with Karasu, Otoya, and Kiora, and not gonna lie, but he was kinda cooking. He also had a super cool gimmick, which was that he was brilliant at reading people. This made him able to see that Chigiri was the weak link in Nagi's team because of his knee, and he was able to use that to his advantage. I really think that the author cut him off just because of the fact that his ability was just too good, because giving him meta vision on top of that, and he'll be legit unstoppable. After Himizu, we have the other Wanima twin, who is also called Junichi. Now, if I'm honest, I have already talked about these useless twins enough, so let's just move on, as he didn't do anything particular after the first selection. However, with that said, as we leave him, we go over to someone whom I am a big fan of, and that's Rayi. Now, once again, you will have had to read the episode Nagi spin-off to know how much of a unit this guy was, but he really was something special, and this is why Rayi, just like Himizu, has a super cool gimmick along with his character, which is that he is a fan of fortune telling. Yeah, kinda rogue, right? As it's not something which I ever thought could be implemented in football. However, I actually thought that it was brought in very safe and could have had a much bigger impact. But as he is in this this video, you already know that it didn't go that way. But anyway, back to Reiji, who, just to glaze him some more, Nagi actually compared Reiji as a version of himself and Isagi, so yeah, that should give you an idea on how much potential this guy had. But it's mainly the fortune-telling aspect, which I'm so sad that we didn't get to see more. Of course, it would have been too powerful if he was able to just predict everything that was about to happen and see through the other teams. But still, he could, for example, play with his fortune-telling cards while sitting on the bench, and then right before a goal, we could get a quick panel of him saying something like, "It's about to go down." That I just think would be absolutely crazy, and something that I would have loved with all of my heart, but sadly he is gone forever most likely. Moving on, we get to a huge character, and that's actually Tokimitsu, who I'm still a bit shocked that he actually got eliminated, but let's talk about it. And more importantly, his insane fall off. As back in the second selection, he was considered to be a top 3 player, and while Ryu, who he was in a team with, managed to earn his spot in the top 23. Tokimitsu himself couldn't do it, which honestly I feel somewhat conflicted on. It's not like I miss him that much, as he didn't really have any time to have a real impact. But still, it's a shame to say the least, as in the last game we saw that with his body, he was able to put up some pressure up against the man himself, Noe, and for someone like that to just disappear is kinda wild. But even though he had his pretty much broken, unlimited stamina ability, and not to mention insane body, it still wasn't enough to earn him a spot in the top 23. Sadly, with that, we actually moved to the last eliminated player in the series up to this date, and that's none other than a huge fan favorite, who is Nagi. Now, Nagi sadly just missed out on the qualification, as he came in the 24th spot with a 24 million offer, which as we know sadly wasn't enough to push him over. But the thing is that in Nagi's case, it's actually so wild, as firstly he was at the 2nd place, then the 7th place. After that, he fell down to the 11th place, and then all the way down to the 24th place. Now, why is this? Well, in Nagi's case, it was actually super unfortunate, as he played against Isagi super early in the story, and his overall goal for the Neoe Egoist League was just to simply beat Isagi, and even though his team didn't win the game, Nagi still felt like he had defeated Isagi, as he had scored on him. This left him to go down a super negative spiral of not having a clear goal which he could follow. Even Rin and Baru, who played against him afterwards, clowned him and said that he wasn't like he used to, and all of this combined, and not to mention him being unable to trust fully in himself and relying too much on his team, this all made him have an insane fall off and ultimately getting kicked out along with all of the other no-names. Now, you probably thought that I would end the video here, as I have talked about everyone who got eliminated, but I quickly want to talk about how it's still not really goodbye for all of them. Now, what do I mean with this? Well, in some of the latest chapters we learned that Buratsuta had made a deal with Ego, that he got to pick 3 players. One of them is of course Japan's best player Sei, but he is allowed to pick 2 more. We have seen that Kira is participating in this, and also Nagi, which means that there is a chance for them to come back, as Buratsuta's idea is to hold some sort of selection, where they get to battle it out with the other players, and the 2 best gets to join the U20 World Cup. My bet is that Kira and Nagi will be the 2 victors, which sadly means that Tokimitsu's road will really come to an end. However, those are the only 2 I realistically see making it. So yeah, even though Nagi technically has been eliminated, I highly doubt that it will be the last time that we get to see him. Anyway, with that said, we have now counted down everyone who has been eliminated. If you have any more video ideas for me, then please leave them down below, as I'm really running out of them. And with that, please have a